let's see. So we have about 12, 13 minutes. I can go through some of the transitions in the form that I see that isn't picked up. So, one of the parry and punches that you have the parry and punch after fan to the back, which is something we've gone over several times. But then we have the parry and punch when we're, say, after planting punch, and then we turn, and we have this parry and punch essentially ends up here. So it's similar, right? So in a sense, the arm movement 1, 2, 3 is happening in 2 phases. This is called planting punch. It's off the back leg. This is the hammer fist, right? So we're here, and we're in this side, and we cross. Then the hands are essentially in this position, and you slip the hand from the inside out, and you have the parry and punch, slightly different transition. Your arms are a lot closer. You didn't go through this whole big transition as we did after fan to the back. But you have that same maneuver after palm strikes face. And you end up like this. One goes to a lotus kick, one goes to the end of the movement, right? So the difference is that when you stroke down, we go into a position like this. Right, so that gives you the idea that when you're making a transition in a 180 turn, this hand and this hand are shoulder and hip. So if I'm here, if you were to use this as a technique, if someone were to tap you on the shoulder, then you have the ability to control that. And then you can slip and remove and turn to the back fist. So you can see that there is a technique there, right? Or if you're like this and you turn with the lotus kick, if someone taps you here, then you're gonna do this, right? So that's what the application for the lotus kick is. So you're usually really controlling the touch, and then your leg goes up. But the movement itself is about the same, coming through. But the difference is you shrink, and it's very tight. It's close. So you have that parry and punch. And then the palm strike face we have near the end of the form. 1, 2, 3, 4. Essentially same as the kick. But then when we step up, we have to pass through the 2 neutral positions. Because if you just did the parry and punch, palm strikes face, right? High pat the horse and then just go to the right side. You kind of left this side with a void, right? You didn't fill that side out. So when we're here and we're here and we're here, we have to be able to make that transition. That transition, stepping up is an advancing step because you're moving forward. So that's retreating is this. Retreating is this. So we have retreat, repulse the monkey. Retreat, form the fist and punch. So that's what it is. A retreat is to step back to avoid. Or you change your position. You change your position. So every time something happens below, something happens above. So you have to build that concept into your movement so that you know that you're not just going from point A to point B and then do the next movement. So the reason why it's a form is because you have to link that together. So that's what a transition is between postures. So that's something that you can, put a little thought into, because, this is called verbal transmission. Teachers back in the day would teach students this way or not teach students. So back in the day, people would have many students and teach some a certain way and some the other way. So today, we have group sessions. There's such thing as private lessons, and people have private lessons because they're not getting the verbal transmission. But I give a lot of verbal transmission in group classes. So it's up to you to take advantage of the information, because the information is only housed here. It doesn't do anything unless you use it. And if it's not housed there, you're not going to do anything with it anyway. So that's what verbal transmission. It's really theories and principles and concepts. And then the visuals, you can't get the visuals through, certain really. I mean, Zoom is okay, online is okay, but you can't get the live, transition because it's three-dimensional. When I go like this and I'm turning, you can't actually see a lot of that on video simply because it's two-dimension. You don't see the nuances in the transition. And then something like this, and you go like this, how can you see that? You can't, because you can barely see it when you're alive, right? Not alive, but live class. So that's really, the verbal transmission is a valuable tool for yourself. You get that information, and it's up to you to cultivate it. So, people far away and they don't have access to live classes, then you can do a Zoom and then, teach, verbally that way, because you can pass it on through verbal transmission theoretically, but you can't do it, without that. It's hard to really capture the nuances and the ideas without some kind of understanding. So we always have to pass through center. Now, in Tai Chi we talk about right, left, center, right? Right, left, center, and forward and back. So center is really central equilibrium. The balance is the center of mass. So you have to compensate the movements based on how you're moving in space. So, center of mass is something that, we know from an object that there's a center of mass and there's a balance point. But center of mass in the human body in motion is different because it's changing all the time. So your ability to find your center of mass and build it into sensitivity and feeling becomes, part of the transition, but part of learning to release the tension in your body. So the simplest explanation I can give you is when you lift your hands and you're fairly stiff or rigid, you can lift your hands and it's a isolated motion. You don't really feel it. When you feel the movement, then your body will start to make a transition, and there's a minute exchange between the forward and back. So your ankles have to be relaxed, and the upper body has to work with the flow of that motion, and the response is part of your proprioception is sensitivity of movement. So that happens all the time, but we don't pay attention to it unless you're relaxed. So that's why doing Tai Chi, if you're tense or stiff, it's very hard to get the feeling of center of mass. That's why when you're prescribed something like Tai Chi for prevention of falls, finding your center and finding your balance, it really has to do with your body understanding and responding to that, the proprioceptive reflex action from your sensory system, the nerves in your body, the joints, responding and feeding your brain and sending impulses from the soles of your feet to the top of your head. Where is your body when you're moving? How much control do you need when you make your shift? And it goes all the way down to the soles of your feet. So when you're doing the simple warm-up exercise like this, and a simple warm-up exercise like this, your goal really is to release the ankles, right? Your knees and that will go with it, but ankles are really something that people don't know how to let go of, because we only walk. Now, if you run or you wear high-top sneakers and high-heel shoes, your ankles, your Achilles gets pretty rigid because it's for some sustaining. So even though you're not, training in wearing shoes, it becomes a training. It becomes very specific to what your ankle thinks it needs to do, is to hold you in that position. But in Tai Chi is opposite of that. We want to release the ankle. So when I say shift, that's finding the position in the ankle so that you can control your weight over that leg. So if you're trying to build balance and stability, it comes from the ground up, not from the top down, right? So if you build that stability, top heavy becomes instability, right? So you have to relax in the top. stability in the bottom. So that's rooting, building a foundation to your legs. So every time you make a shift to move this leg, that's what you're doing. That's a training. So if you want to improve balance and control of your footwork, and everyone has different goals. If it's for balance and stability, maybe Otis would work more on that idea. Someone working on balance and stability on a martial art, stability of pushing someone, pulling, where is the body going to be when you have a force acting on you? It becomes completely different. Oops. So when you turn, you say, well, that's just a turn. But actually, without the connection to this as a conscious position and the turn, the force is coming through here. So you have to find that position and relax the shoulder to have stability in the body by not becoming excessive, not reaching, but relaxing. Then the force you will be able to control the opponent's force, or the variable, because that's what it is. It's something else coming into your body that you have to detect. So that's another sensitivity. So, that's kind of food for thought. Going through the form is one thing, but after form, you have to get this stuff. Right, John? Anything? Oh yeah. Okay. What's it, John? John's always good.
Okay. So you talked about having intent.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But you also want to be relaxed.
Yeah. Yeah. No, because relaxing means to release tension in the joints, and in Tai Chi we have a term called use your will and not strength. So that's really an idea. The idea is that your body has to know how much strength. So how does it know? It knows from experience. It knows through trial and error. So everything that we do is actually trial and error. We go through everything I tell you. You have to go through it as a trial and error, and eventually you start to figure it out. So you say, how is there is a conflict? Yeah, there is a conflict at the two extremes. Excessive, too tight, not good. Top heavy. Deficient, too loose, doesn't work. So you have to find the medium. So that's what the balance of yin and yang is. So if my hand is here, and I go like this, that's a lot of strength. So that's no good. If I go like this, if I just have it here, and I move, I can, while you're pushing me, I'm going to move, but I have a structure here. And I can move with it. Because actually this is my sustaining position. So when the force comes, I actually just have to move, and then it comes down. So when you turn, that's the redirection of the force. But this is what happens when you redirect the force. I sink my elbow, right? I sink my elbow. But he's using a lot of strength here to lift that. So when he lifts, I let go, and then it comes around, right? So this position really, it's manipulation of skeletal structure. Here, 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 here. So you change, adaptability. You can't adapt if there's tension, right? You can, but what do you have to do before you move? Relax, let go. So that's what we're learning in form, because the idea of using strength is not really an easy thing to do. Then that's really the struggle. Learn how to use your strength correctly. Right, ready? Okay, bow.